Hi, this is John from Sharp Mountain Games, and today we're taking a look at Heroes and Monsters. So here's the book, Heroes and Monsters, and you can see very nice color cover here. It's about 6 by 9. It's a digest size book. And it's by Michael Hassel. I hope I'm saying his name right. And it is based on the Black Hack. And along with the Black Hat, very much it's an implementation or in the flavor of the old basic expert Dungeons and Dragons. A lot of artwork in here. Some of it I think I've seen in other places like Labyrinth Lord. So maybe they bought an art pack on drivethrurpg or something to have a lot of artwork in here. And then that's nice. A lot of artwork helps. So it gives you the what is role-playing and the dice and how to make your characters. Uses the standard attributes just like Dungeons and Dragons. Now, one thing I should mention is it's a roll-under system. You don't add bonuses. So what's nice is you don't have to think about, okay, what's the value for the attribute and then what's the bonus? No, you just use the 3 to 18 scale and you roll under. And some people might think, well, that's kind of old school. I like to think of it as classic. It also works very well for online play. I've used it. I've used it for online play. So all you have to do is know, oh, if my dexterity is 14, I need to be rolling under a 14. And much of this is going to be familiar. You have alignment. Now, the classes are much more like the BX. So if you're playing a cleric, you're playing a human cleric. Same thing for fighter, magic user, thief. And if you're playing a dwarf, you're playing a dwarf. So there is some customization for that at the end. And let's talk about that. And some people, again, that's old school. And they may say, well, I don't like that. I don't want to just be an elf or I don't want to just be a halfling. But we all know these types of characters from movies like Lord of the Rings and things like that. So in a way, it's very, very user-friendly for new people. So don't discount it right off the top. It really does work really well. And then equipment and weapons. Now, armor class is a little bit different here. Armor class is soak. So if you get hit and you have leather armor on, it'll absorb 1 point of damage. Or plate mail will, chainmail rather, will absorb 2. Plate mail will absorb 3. Oh, nice thing here with the usage die. So, you know, if you roll a usage die and it's a consumable, if you get a 1 or a 2, then it drops down to the next dice level and eventually you don't have any more. I guess it's a way to keep track of like your arrows and things without having to get too nitpicky. And it gets into the rules. Now, it does use advantage and disadvantage, much like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. So sometimes that's really easy. Player wants to do something, you say, oh, you can try that, but you're going to try it with disadvantage, or no, that really fits your class, so you can try it with advantage. Now, Black Hack is a player-facing system. So you roll to hit, and you roll to dodge. Now that you may say, well, maybe that slows things down a little bit, but what it actually does is, and I use this in my current game, what it does is it gives players a second chance to roll dice within their turn. So they're not just waiting for 10 minutes to roll around until they take their next turn. No, when the monsters go, they're going to be dodging and they're going to be doing something actively. So it is a way, especially if you're running a slightly larger group, to keep everybody involved. You could do the critical successes if you want, although you don't have to, it says in here. And here's the thing that I kind of like too. In terms of range, there's close, there's nearby, far away, and distance. And it gives you these here. So you don't have to fiddle too much with ranges. It's basically just 4 different possibilities. Initiative is nice. You roll your dexterity, and if you're successful, you go before the monsters. If you're unsuccessful, you go after. And then everybody who goes before can decide the order. Everybody who goes after can decide that. And then it gets into combat, and it's nothing fancy. It's a lot like what you would expect from any kind of old school game, even the modern games. And so the rest of this chapter kind of talks about your combat and your resting and your healing and leveling up and your magic spells. These work a lot like old school D&D. Oh, if you're a cleric, you get a spell at first level. You don't have to wait like you do in some. And here's our spell list. Now you'll notice that these spells, like Cure Light Wounds, heals 1d8 hit point to a nearby target. Very, very succinct. What I like about that is it would be very easy to just write these spell descriptions right on the character sheet. Now, is it as going to cover every single thing the way maybe like a 5th edition or even old school spells will? No, there's some decisions that the Dungeon Master will have to make, and usually that's fine. And here's your elf magic user spells. So you get all your, it's just all the standard spells from any D&D type game that you would expect. Now monsters. Monsters do damage based on their hit dice. So with this chart here, you could say, okay, my party's level 2. I want to throw a level 1 monster at them. That level 1 monster can do d4 hit points of damage, or that gives you the average 2 or 3 in case you want to just use the static damage. So it's very easy to do that. And then here is basically the monster manual. It's basically their hit dice. And then if they have anything special, like dwarves have disadvantage on magic rolls. Elves are immune to ghoul paralysis. If they do anything special that you need to know about, it's just over here. So monsters are very streamlined in this system. And you get a lot of monsters here. And it certainly would be absolutely easy. Really, all you need is the hit dice, and you could import monsters from pretty much any edition. Now, Chapter 7 Adventures, it does not give you a sample adventure. That's always nice, but if you're an old school or even a new school player, you have adventures around. But it does give you some nice advice on things to do to be a good player and to be a good dungeon master. They call it a game master. Gives an example of play here. That's always nice. And some things about themes, exploring the unknown, or whether you're a heroic character in danger and wonder, challenging the player. So this is all kind of your standard dungeon master advice, but it's nice. It's a chapter worth reading, I think, even for long-term DMs. There's always the basics that you can be reminded of. And some things that you might need to know just specifically for the dungeon, like dungeon doors and the light. I'm remembering this exact kind of section in the old Basic Expert book. And talks about treasure a little bit. And here's something very nice at the end. Sometimes these older games, people don't want to play them because they say, well, I don't want to just be an elf, or I don't want to just be a halfling. He does give some examples of if you want to start to customize them. Like he has a rune priest, which is a dwarf cleric. And he shows how he would mix and match he gives you an elf, a mage thief, so a magic user thief or a wizard thief, kind of like an illusionist maybe, and how you would implement that. And if you wanted to be a halfling, now this is a fighter druid category. So that starts to give the halflings some wizard type spells, but focusing more on nature. And the puppeteer gnome is a special one. That's not a mixed class. That's a little bit weirder here. I think it's more of an illusionist. And then some nice artwork here. And the open gaming license. And that's the book. So let's talk about whether you should buy the book or not. First of all, I really enjoyed reading it. I don't see myself selling the book. I don't regret the purchase in any way. But if you're thinking about it and you're looking for a more streamlined version of Dungeons & Dragons, I think you can't go wrong. Especially if you're a fan of the older games like the Basic Expert, the Rules Cyclopedia, Beck-Me. If you like that style of gaming, even first edition and second edition Dungeons & Dragons, you really can't go wrong. It does have race as class, so you're playing an elf, again, or a halfling versus an elf cleric or something like that. So I think that's very easy for new players. And I also think more streamlined systems are much, much better for online play than compared to, say, 3rd edition D&D or 5th edition D&D, unless the players are very, very experienced. And another thing in its favor, it's cheap. The PDF is $1.90 on drive-thru at the time that I'm recording this, and the print versions I think are $9.95 or $10 on both Lulu and Amazon, so you really can't go wrong for that price. So if you have any comments on this book or on the Black Hack in general, that style of role-playing, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to see the products from Sharp Mountain Games, here's how. You can get our print books, The Dwarven Pickup Truck and The Sky Tree at Amazon, Lulu, or drivethrurpg. And you can see our digital titles, which include map packs, character cards, adventures and classes at drivethrurpg and on the Roll20 Marketplace. Wherever you like to shop, odds are we're there. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and we hope to see you soon.